Yeah, that's not. Here, okay. Yeah, we're all live on streaming now. So, Facebook. Did you get a notification yet? Wonder why it's not. Yeah, well, you can just kind of. Well, we'll watch it through Zoom. It's weird. Where you wanna- Yeah, that's a little strange, huh?
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
It's like,
Well, how do you all know that Marissa test read all my slides today, so we should have no spelling errors?
We should. I mean, he uses lots of words on them, but so maybe not everything.
you're already right,
Actually make their own.
just a heads up.
Yeah. Do you want to go do announcements?
I don't know if anybody, no man left behind, you want to do announcements? And definitely required. You know what's going well.
That's the only one I know, really.
Okay, that's all I know too, so. Because the dates. Yeah, we're on dates for this. Dates. Right this time, it's April 23rd, 24th.
We've been getting some people registering for.
No, man, 27th, this one. You can say it, 'cause I'm not.
Oh, okay, so we have, no one left behind. Yes, it's a team run on March 27th.
Yeah.
What part is that?
That's Highland Glen, Highland.
And on April 23rd and 24th is Great Disciple.
And he's.
That's
Yeah, Jed should have a map so everybody's in mark. The segments
Relay.
that they want to run here pretty soon. Those are the only ones that I know about.
And the birthday. That's it.
When is the birthday?
It's May 1st, I'm saying.
Get their picture of
Do you want the lights down?
Can you turn, yeah, that's
the front
Yeah,
ones.
May 1st, the birthday party,
May 1st.
or birthday party. Yeah.
I know that I saw that, we got one guy that signed up for.
You can go a little bit.
5K.
Or
Well, I was planning
I
on
mean,
it if I could get
yeah.
my lungs strong enough.
That's hopefully you.
Yes.
The half marathon, all that fun stuff, huh? Okay. Marcy, want to introduce any new people?
All right. We have a couple new people. You guys mind introducing yourself, telling us your name and how you heard about us?
Yeah, my name is Linda. First time I heard about Addict was I was at a meeting when I was in rehab, and someone shared their story. And that's when I first heard of it, but I wish I would have gotten involved then, because I think it would have saved a lot. of wasted time for me. So, yeah, I'm happy to be here.
She's now one of our certified sober coaches. She's
Yeah.
taken the training.
Yeah, don't leave that part out. Hard.
Yeah, I'm excited, so hopefully we'll,
Yeah,
yeah.
COVID's dying down, that we can get
I
the
gotta get
meeting
Liz's
going.
stuff. I had COVID, so I forgot to bring Liz's stuff. Sorry. I like your hat. Right.
Hi, I'm Kelly. I'm gonna kill her because I didn't know I had to talk.
No, you say I came with her. So you're.
We'll make Linda do all the talking.
So, whew, my heart's beating fast.
She's happy to be here.
I feel like I got my best friend back when she became an athlete.
Awesome.
And I'm really, really happy to have her back, and she is so powerful. So I'm super excited to be here.
Awesome.
That's awesome. Good.
Thank
for
you,
being here.
thank you.
Everybody else looks semi-familiar, so let's get rocking and rolling, shall we? So I've been thinking about this a lot ever since last time we met. Wanted to do it earlier in the year so that we could kind of tune this into some of those New Year's resolutions about, you know, athletes, meaning you take your mark, take your place. Has to do a lot with the way that we perceive ourselves. One of the neat things about addict to athlete is as you're moving from addict to athlete, you're leaving something behind, that old part of you. But a lot of times when you line up for life, recovery, sobriety, when you line up for it, it's a little overwhelming. When you first got into recovery, pursuing sobriety, did you think you knew everything that was going to come at you? Or did you use a lot of faith in order to kind of get yourself to that starting line? We're going to talk a lot about that today, about what it looks like, how it works, about getting yourself to your starting line. One of the neatest things, how many of you guys do you believe now in recovery have at least crossed the starting line? You're not contemplating anymore, you're now moving through recovery, right? Well, I love this because we talk about these aspects of self-worth, self-esteem, and that value system that we place on ourselves. And I love that starting line. Starting lines are the coolest things. I remember when I first met Kenny, and he came to our very first meeting, and he came up afterwards and started talking about Dave Clark. And at that point, I think Kenny had already saw his starting line and thought, I'm doing this, and committed himself. You know, I remember Jim's starting line. I remember a lot of your starting lines. Do you guys realize how important that moment was when you committed yourself to sobriety and found a way to boost, you know, that monumental task of pursuing recovery? Do you guys remember what that was like? Anybody remember your starting line? What was it? I'm curious. Anybody remember? Jim?
2 years ago in April, when I called you that day from the VA hospital in Salt Lake City,
Yeah.
that was the start. That was the real starting line.
The other one was practice events. That was the real starting line.
Yeah.
I 100% believe that. Ginger?
Mine was the day that the kids went.
Yeah. I saw your daughter, by the way. Did she tell you? We saw her at the mall.
Which one?
Brianne. But like, it was funny because she saw Brooklyn and not me. And I'm like, Brianne. It was awesome. It's weird. Now she's married and grown up. And back then she was little kids. When your kids were taken, you're like, all right, it's time to start. It's a good starting
I
line.
saw Jen at the mall. Just wanted to throw that in.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, see, everybody go to the mall. That's what it's about.
That's the only place you go.
When recreating your life and taking your place in recovery, you may face feelings of low self-esteem, low self-worth, and anxiety. Sound familiar? Because how do you erase and replace that old life, right? Remember, when you take your place, you're committing yourself to recreating your life. It's kind of a cool thing. I mean, Ginger, you've been in this for so long now, but yet you still remember that part of life, don't you? How much have you recreated of your life past, post addiction. You've had to kind of like start from scratch and build yourself up, right?
Not even the same.
Not even identical at all, is it? It's like two different time periods completely. So when you commit yourself to that starting line, chances are you're gonna be a little bit weary, a little bit apprehensive. You may not know all the ropes. You may be like, all right, I'm gonna test my toe in this water and see if it sticks. And if it does, well, that's where we start to get ready to go, because that gun's gonna fire, and when it does, you've got to go. Low self-esteem works in a cycle. Sometimes, and I've seen it on this team quite a bit, when we don't quite measure up or we start feeling kind of down and we feel like we're not making any movement, it's crazy how like that self-worth, that self-esteem goes in a cycle. First, we feel bad about the mistakes that we've made. Maybe you bump into somebody from your past, reminds you of some of that stuff that you used to be part of. Then comes the stress of those mistakes that you have, that you put on yourself, start thinking, well, I'm not good enough to even start. I don't think I could even do this. And then comes a relapse or that failure to thrive, that depression, and it just keeps going around in cycles. The only way you're going to break that cycle of low self-esteem, low self-worth is to what? Do you guys know? It could be anything. What do you got to do to break the cycle? Sign up and run it with Jed around Utah Lake.
Just get out and do something.
Do it, right? Go, take your mark, get set, now go, absolutely, do something. Examples of low self-esteem, because I've felt some of these, I'm sure you guys have, self-neglect, anxiety, social withdrawal, eating disorders, mistrust, fear, new challenges, worry, all that stuff. I could probably put another 150 attributes on there. But those are all common themes when it comes to low self-worth, low self-esteem. You know, those feelings of anxiety. How many of you guys really felt that feeling of anxiety, that worry or concern when you were making that leap? Maybe saying, well, there will be people that I won't be able to associate with anymore. There will be relationships that I had established during my addiction that I can no longer participate with. When you made those decisions, did that not die? What if I'm all alone? What if I change so much that my family doesn't recognize me? That's happened to me. It's kind of a wild thing, right? And then sometimes we plug in things like eating issues or, you know, social withdrawal. We step out completely. That's what I had to do. But my esteem was so low that, like I've said this a million times, my friends were on TV. Monica, Chandler, Ross, Phoebe, all those guys. Those were my friends. I didn't have any. I socially withdrew from everything. I had to commit what I call social suicide. These are examples of what takes place when you're making that decision to take your place. We call it erase and replace. It's the philosophy used when you use techniques and experiences to your benefit. Once you erase something in life, you have to replace it with something of greater value. This is the theme, the philosophy of Team Addict to Athlete. The more you practice, the stronger you become. And then you've got to take your mark, right? You've got to step up. This is what I find funny about Addict to Athlete. A lot of people come to the meetings and they like them. It feels good. They get motivated. But then on the weekends, when the running clinic folks are like, let's take on the world, there's no one there. Like, where is everybody, right? Like, that group should be huge because that's where you truly take your mark. Not in here. This is where you come to be instructed, to gain insight, to put plans in action. Right? When you go out there and take your mark with the team on the weekends or during the experiences, that's where the real growth happens. How many times have you guys, the running group, I'm curious about your group, how many times have you guys not wanted to go, but you went anyway, and there was a reason you made it there? Like somebody that you needed to talk to, some experience, maybe like, I didn't feel really good, but I went anyway, and I'm glad I did. Yeah, all of you probably?
Every week.
Every week. You know, I'm loving watching Ginger start posting her stuff. She's turning into a runner again. Like, she's getting her legs back. She's recovering from COVID. You can breathe again. That's
When I run.
yeah.
When I stop, I can't.
Power walking. You'll get there,
I
right?
have a comment about the.
Go ahead.
running group. There was a weekend I at Willow, and I wasn't doing so good, and I knew that the group was gonna be there. And so I went and showed up, because I knew they were gonna be there. So thank you for always being there.
And that's one thing I actually really love about the group is, even though at times I'm like, man, there's hardly anybody who ever shows up, there's always at least one person there, and there's always somebody. It's never completely canceled. It's snowing, it's raining, it doesn't matter. There's somebody there.
Yeah.
So in case others show up, they don't feel neglected.
Absolutely. And I'm excited to get things going. We got some things up our sleeves with some challenges that we're gonna put together, and you running clinic folks are already starting to crush it. So as we announce this in the future, you've already taken your place. I'm excited for that kind of stuff, but that's truly the point. When you take your place, when you make your mark, people will see you. And then you become a very powerful individual in their lives as someone who commits, someone who's there, someone who can motivate and lead and inspire. It's a big deal. Our erase and replace philosophy is kind of unique. Sure, it sounds cool when it rolls off your tongue, but it means something bigger. It's about letting go of that past, truly letting it go, not keeping any in the reserve tank, not keeping any back doors open, but completely shutting it and reestablishing yourself. So in order to do this, you've got to improve your self-worth. These are the ways that I've found, that I've noticed that have worked over the years. And we're going to get into each of them. The first one I've noticed is that if you want to recreate your life, if you want to get to that starting line, the first thing is you got to serve out of your inconvenience. Anybody have an idea what I mean by that? Is it always convenient, Holly, to get up and lead the team to run when it's cold outside and snowing?
No, or if I've been up really early with my kids already.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not convenient. Is it convenient to take the phone call that's at 10:30 at night when you're super tired or midnight? No, it's not. But I've noticed when we do things like this, all of you made an effort out of your inconvenience to be here. There's other things that you could be doing, but instead you chose to come here to be inspired, to be taught, to be able to motivate others. When experiencing low self-esteem, it may be difficult to look outside yourself. You've got to be able to do that. I've noticed when I start getting down, all I have to do is turn on that service mentality. And it's a big deal. It works for everybody. That's why it is step 12, right? To carry the message of the addict who still suffers. That is what service is about. Only on Team Addict to Athlete, we take it one step further, which is we do the physical aspect of it. It's not like call me on the phone, it's grab your shoes, we're going for a hike. Right? So the positive actions attract positive thoughts. There's no way, I think anybody in here who's ever served or been of service to somebody else has ever walked away less than when they approach the individual or situation to serve. You always feel better, 100%. And so it's kind of like it's kind of like a conceited thing too, because I'm like, I feel really good when I have an experience when I serve. So am I doing it for the person to help them, or am I doing it for me? I hate to tell you, it's both, but who's really getting the most benefit out of it? I am. Kind of a crazy thing, right? It's like little league coaches right there. I wish Jed would have been here because I wanted to tease him. Social detox is number 2. If you want to take your mark and improve your self-worth, you've got to do what I call social detox. And this is an interesting one. Take care of your appearance, which is kind of funny, right? And what do I mean by that? Your outward appearance is often a reflection of how you feel inside, true or false? 100%. When I used to serve in a calling in the church I belonged to, I'd go to people's homes, and the first thing you'd walk in and you'd notice that maybe there's tons of dishes in the sink and all this kind of stuff. I'm like, I know where the atmosphere of the mood is. You can kind of tell, right? Take care of yourself. That's why these jerseys are kind of funny. When we first created the Addict Athlete logo on the jersey and we started handing these things out, and you guys started buying them, I noticed that people never did stupid things in their uniform. And in fact, so much so that when we had a guy that was out panhandling one day, we all got like 30 messages on the Facebook page of like, there's someone out there that needs help. He's on the team. He's got this jersey. We gotta go talk to him. And I think like 12 or 13 of you like went and approached him, figured out what his problem was. It's like, you don't get caught by the cops wearing your Addict Athlete jersey. We had one athlete that happened to, and Tom, right? Tom said, you might want to just put that shirt inside out because coach wouldn't like seeing you in that. And he let him turn his shirt inside out. And it's not about vanity. It's about treating yourself with respect, right? Anybody in here ever had like a call center job where they make you dress up? Earl, why? Why do they make you dress up?
Make you feel more professional even though you never see anybody.
It's a weird thing, isn't it? It is seriously a weird thing. It's like you will act differently when you're like that. Now, that may not be who you truly are. You probably are like the guy who wears the gym shorts all the time and the running shoes, right? But it's like, when you've got to be somewhere and you've got to make a presence, you've got to take care of yourself. It's an outward expression of how you feel inward. Do surround yourself with strong people who lift you up. That's why I love it when the team shows up and everyone's like decked out in their gear, because not only do we recognize ourselves as a team, but all of a sudden now you become walking embassies of recovery. People approach you. How many of you guys have ever been approached when you've been in your jersey? Yeah, or sticker on your car, or what have you. Yeah. So, like it or not, social detox is a big one. You know, the other thing that's kind of funny too is like these unwritten rules. We have a lot of unwritten rules, like no smoking when you're in your jersey. It's interesting how many athletes have stopped smoking just because they're like, this is a weird combo. Why would I be doing this if I want to do that? And that taking care of your appearance, it's not, again, to change who you are. It's to show the people who don't know you who you are, because you could be that beacon that saves their life. I mean, that's kind of a crazy thing. I used to do this a lot when I worked in the county, when I was a therapist out there, and I'd have guys coming in and they'd have like big dreads and piercings all over their face, and then they'd tell me like, I'm a really good dad, and I'm like, not really. If you came to my kid's school, I would probably call the cops, man. What the crap, you don't know me? I'm like, yeah, well, you're kind of scary looking, man. I can't take you serious as a father. And they used to really bind them up. I mean, it used to really twist them up, until they started seeing that once they made some changes, the respect level that they got, not just from like me, but from the probation officer, from the judge, from DCFS, to people like in public, it was weird. It was like a superpower almost. It wasn't to piss them off or to make them upset. It was literally to say, your outward expression shows me how you're feeling inside. Kind of a crazy thing. I mean, you remember Jesse, our very first athlete with the devil beard.
That's what I was just talking
Yeah.
about. What's his thinking?
Jesse. We had one athlete. I remember I challenged him and I'm like, Jesse, I'm not going to take you serious until you cut the, he had literally a devil beard. It went down to like a point. Remember? And he had long hair and I'm like, I want to see some commitment. He's like, I'm not going to do it. And I'm like, then you're going to have to work extra hard. And he flipping did. He kept his beard and he kept his long hair and he kept that visual appearance. But he excelled like tenfold. Like he was the first to show up, the last to leave. He was the most personable. I'm like, there you go. That is even better than trying to cut your beard. And I loved it. You remember how much he changed. I wonder what he's doing these days. Probably in prison, right? Jesse, if you're watching this, I'm kidding. Change your perspective. This is a big one. Trail running versus road running, right? Jim, which do you prefer?
Trail.
Yeah, that's right. So changing your perspective is important. This could be like traveling to a different way to work. Maybe this is like going somewhere on vacation you've never been before. Start exploring your world. In addiction, we typecast ourselves into one paradigm. I am only a road runner, right? And then all of a sudden you start getting out there in the mountains, you start feeling different. You're like, man, you know what? This is spiritual out here on this trail. Changing your perspective. Trail running's much harder than road running, right? But road running, it's a little bit more safe. It's a little bit more like calm. You can anticipate what's coming. Participating in something you've never done before can refresh your mind and break negative thought processes, negative patterns, right? Because we're not supposed to be rats in a maze doing the exact same thing. We're supposed to be inquisitive. We're supposed to be curious about what life brings. I love going on road trips, places I've never been before, because I'm like, I don't know what's over those mountains. I've never been there. Change your perspective. It's a big deal. Sometimes the smallest decisions can change your life forever. Small things that we've done in life have literally changed my life. From a phone call, from a person I've met, to a place I've been. There's been spiritual experiences I've had on runs, on events, on team experiences that I wasn't even going to participate in. But because I did, it changed my life. Changing your perspective is as simple as saying, I wonder what it looks like from up here. You know, it's kind of funny. I was talking to my kids about this not too long ago, and we were having a discussion with Savannah, and she was like just breaking down the world's problems with me. And I'm like, kids, you only have a small perspective. It's like you're climbing this mountain, you're hiking to the Y, and you're seeing this view from the Y. I said, but what happens if you climbed all the way to the top of the mountain? Look how much more you could see. I was like, your perspective is still small. You know, don't typecast yourself into thinking that that's the world, when in actuality, it's much bigger. Changing your perspective is a little bit scary too, because you might change your mind, right? And the coolest thing about this is no one can do that for you but yourself. That's why it's no fun to get into political debates or anything like that, because no one's going to change your mind but you. If you change your perspective on something, you know, it's kind of like MAT, people that are struggling with medicated assisted therapy for you know, alcohol or drug addiction. The perspective was abstinence or nothing, right? Guess what? That doesn't really work in some people. So by introducing a perspective change, we can start seeing that there are benefits out there that can come from medicated assisted therapy. And the perspective is, hey, this seems to be working. Let's try this. But you get some other people that are like, no way, no how, no where. But it's like, you guys, we can't just stay stuck. Anybody in here ever read the book Who Moved My Cheese? It's a great book about change. It's what it's all about, changing your perspective. It's one of the coolest things. Look at that guy. Improving your self-worth by documenting your accomplishments. One of the things I noticed really quick on Team Addict to Athlete was that when we posted something online, when we had one Facebook page, people would talk about it for hours. We'd have a softball game and there'd be 400 posts underneath it. And then we started seeing people asking for help on the platform. We started seeing people posting things they were doing, things they were experiencing, races they were having. And all this attention, this good positive energy was flowing to it. Why not post your successes there too? Use social media as an outlet for your team. Some people say, you know, I'm cutting off social media, I don't want to do it anymore, it's bad. Well, that's because you're spending too much time on other people's pages, right? It's a funny thing, but if you've done something, show your team. Don't care who cares about the world, but show your team, because you post something. I can't remember who it was, posted a picture of an old event, and I think it was probably you or Jen or somebody, and all of a sudden, like all of this momentum started happening, and people are like, oh, I want to try that. I think I can do that. I want to try this. It's one of the neatest things when we use it for its purpose, not to pretend to have a healthy life and to be like involved in the world, but to actually share the experience with your team. I love watching the running clinic post their stuff. I love watching all of your investments that you place on there. I love it when someone dares enough to ask for help on there, right? Use this as a documentation for your accomplishments. Even if you come up short, right? I've posted stuff on Addict to Athlete's Facebook page that hasn't been glorious and fantastic, and I've gotten the best feedback because you all know who I am. You all know the authentic self. When we create that atmosphere, we can use it not just to put cat memes on there, Terry, but also to like use it as a platform to say, this is what I did. I think both Earl and Kenny have posted on there about weight loss and whatnot, and how cool it is, how great they feel. That is huge, because you inspire someone else that says, well, if Kenny can do it, I can do it, right? And if I can do it, someone else will say, well, Coach Blue and Kenny can do it, and Earl can do it, maybe I can do it. Guys, document your accomplishments. If you're a little bit worried about putting it out there, journal it, right? Keep those photos on your phone, but journal what you're doing, because you're gonna have to sometime look back and see how far you've come. Mentor someone by teaching someone the skills or imparting some of your wisdom by sharing knowledge to improve yourself on how amazing and unique of a person you truly are. Each one of you, to a certain degree, are mentors and coaches on Team Addict to Athlete, because I've watched you invest in one another. I've seen you mentor each other. You know, this running clinic started like about, what, a year ago almost now? A year in May, and I did one session. And Michelle and Holly took over, and look what they've created. They're mentors. They're like, I don't know how to do any of this, but they faked it until they became it. And now look who the recipients and beneficiaries are. I love it. Mentor someone. It could be your kids. It could be, you know, another athlete. When you start sharing your experiences, Liz does a lot with her talents in knitting and being a runner and all the other stuff. You mentor quite a bit. But if you don't share those skills, if you don't share that purpose you have inside, we're never going to know how great we could be alongside you. reflect and just be. I first heard this several years ago, and I would make fun of it with Marissa. I'm like, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life, just be. Because I couldn't just be. I had to be doing something. I couldn't just be still and reflect on where I've been and what I've done. I had to constantly be in motion. And when I truly started to kind of understand the concept of when experiencing low self-worth, we think of a lot of problems we're having and somehow it's all our fault. I don't want to be still with that. When I truly understood that principle of just being, man, the coolest things started to happen. It's like running up the canyon, doing something, and then stopping, taking that moment of like, I climbed here. I ran this far. Marissa and I went for this big, huge walk the other day, and we looked at the mouth of the canyon. I'm like, do you remember when we were way over there? It's kind of funny. And I'm like, stop just for a second and look back and see how far you've come. You know, the position of an observer, being outside of yourself and being able to see the influence that you've had, not just on your own like efforts, but the efforts of others. And then be conscious about your thoughts and how to start making plans to correct and change them if you need to. What needs to increase? What needs to decrease? You know, we have a world full of noise. And if we don't just stop it, what was it, Ferris Bueller, right? Life moves pretty fast. Sometimes you gotta stop, pass you by. Same thing, same concept, right? Be still and just be. Jim, how cool is that look, man? I want to be there right now. Simplify. This is a big one that Marissa and I have been trying to do for quite a while, which is like stop cluttering ourselves up with social media, you know, with you know, just stuff, right? And stop cluttering yourself up. That outward appearance is a reflection of your own well-being. That's the same thing that happens when you do that in your environment, your home, your living environment. If you have, Marissa's like, I think you have an addiction to like jackets, Blue. You're a jacket guy. I started going through and like getting rid of tons of clothes and tons of stuff, and I'm like, I don't even wear any of this stuff. What is this? But by decluttering, you know, you start getting these emotional attachments to things. That's not a good thing, is it, Jim? To be attached to things. Because what happens when that thing is gone? Well, then all of our energies are put into it. Freeing up space in your living environment will help you enjoy the space that you create, right? I've been in houses before where it's like hoarders would be shocked to go through places like that. And I'm like, what is this stuff? And they put so much emotional, projections out on everything that everything means something. But what are they truly neglecting if they're putting all that emotion on stuff, on clutter? They're ignoring their own stuff inside. So to simplify life is to start a small list, do things better, you know, so start to kind of narrow things down. We have a rule in our house that if we haven't touched it in a couple months, we don't need it. Which is kind of a funny thing because I'm like, I guess so. I guess we'll get rid of this, you know, this bike or this, you know, tool or this, you know, what, jacket.
Shoes.
Get rid of these things. Discover your passion. This is a great way to improve your self-worth. If you have a passion about something, I think you've got to involve yourself in it. Everyone has a list of things they want to do, but never get around to it. You guys notice that? The other day, I see like the old Broncos, the 65, 66 Broncos. I'm like, I want one of those. But I know you have one. I'm a little bit jealous. I wish you weren't here because, you know, it's my favorite. But I'm like, I was thinking the other day, I'm like, I'm never gonna get that, right? Because they're a ton of money. If I don't know how to fix things up and all this kind of stuff, like I'm thinking, you know what? Do I really need it? No. It would be beautiful to have. I love it, but guess what? I don't need that.
You can just go on this.
Yeah, I just come hang out. I can come on hang out with you. Ron, to give me a ride in it, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there you go. See? But the cool thing about this is the passion, right? What is the passion about that? Well, it's about wanting things that like bring joy. It's about finding joy in the automobile. It's about finding joy in running. It's about being passionate about the things you involve yourself with. If you're gonna be a parent, put passion into it. If you're going to be a runner, put passion into it. If you're gonna be a musician, artist, put passion into it. Stop making excuses when we can't achieve it and start doing it. See what happens. Marissa and I have been full year into Addict to Athlete now for about a year. And we want this to be our full-time jobs, to bring out more of the ideas that we have. And through Patreon, through a few other things, that's starting to happen. But it's the passion behind helping you that gets us up every day, that motivates us to stay downstairs in the basement and crank out all these things, hours upon hours to create programs for people all over the world. And that's the goal. There's a ton of passion in there. And because of that, there's some things that we can't do right now, but that's okay because that passion's bringing purpose. Don't delay, start now. None of you are old in this room. None of you are not old enough to do something amazing. You know, if you wait and you sit on that passion, you're going to be bitter when it's all over. Like, well, that sucked. Maybe the hokey pokey was what it was all about and I missed it. Find your passion. Addiction messes that up. It puts a blinder on you. And so it doesn't want you to see what you're capable of. You know, there's no reason in here any of you couldn't do anything you truly wanted to. You know, Everest, it's not going anywhere. I wouldn't want to do that, but there are some people that are passionate about it. David Clark, that was one of his next things he wanted to do. And I love that principle about going after what you're passionate about. Exercise, it's what the team was founded on. You want to find purpose, you want to take your mark, you know, you want to start improving your self-worth, exercise. It is what got me through, because I had a weird thing happen after COVID. I got like wicked depressed. It was weird. I never, ever felt this in my life. And it was scary. I remember telling Marissa, I'm like, I don't know what this is, but I don't want anything. I'm done. I think that this, I was getting dark. And it was kind of scary. And it was like day after day, like 3 or 4 days of this. And I'm like, holy crap. It was not good. And I started thinking, I'm like, I get what they're saying now. I get what my clients are talking about. This is it. And I didn't really see a way out of it, you guys. I was like, this sucks because your body doesn't feel good enough to do anything. You walk up the stairs, you're about to pass out. And I'm like, this is horrible. I've ran 50-mile ultra marathons. I can't even go up the stairs. Like, it got scary. And what happened was I got called to do a Sunday school lesson. So I increased my religious little experience there by studying a lesson, getting spiritual again. And we started walking, exercise. One day, it turned it all around. It was the craziest thing. It was scary, it wasn't, it was nuts. But I found that exercise is huge with this. Because the last thing you want to do when you're feeling down or feeling low is to go for a freaking run. But what happens after you do? It feels amazing. I had to go out and do a little 5K just to prove to myself that I can still do it. And it was hard. I walked a ton, but we got it done. Exercise doesn't just help your body to improve your state of mind by helping you focus on those small, achievable goals. It's what it's all about. It's not about the marathon. It's about mile 1 to mile 2 to mile 3 and so on and so forth. You can accomplish anything you set your mind to. I truly believe that. That's not just like filler. I truly believe that. I was in a dark space, you guys. It was crazy. And I know it was the sickness and it was just the ability to not do half the stuff I've just been speaking to you guys about today, but it got scary. Last one, invest in your well-being. This is a big deal. This is about putting your money where your mouth is for yourself. This is about evaluating your spending habits and making changes. Are you spending money on destructive coping mechanisms like fast food and donuts and candies and drinks? Or are you investing in something that you can do to put your time into? A race, an experience, a vacation, something like that. You have to invest in yourself. I'm not talking about buying something for yourself. I'm talking about investing in yourself for something of greater value on the horizon. This is a cool thing. If we don't do that, we're going to start getting complacent and we'll get stuck. So investing in yourself, like one thing we do for our families is we got to get out of here around this time of year because the freaking cold weather drives us nuts. So we invest in our family's mental health by taking mental health vacations, getting somewhere sunny, And so we could go and buy like bright lights for our house, but I'm like, screw that, let's get down here, let's go have an experience. Invest in yourself. Register for races, take the coaches, certified silver coach things. So you can invest in yourself. Do something for you. Most of you in here, if you struggle with addiction, have been doing things for others for so long, you may not know how to invest in yourself. If you have problems with that, ask one of your teammates. It's one of the coolest things about taking your mark is figuring out who you are and what you're about. And by doing that, guys, gals, there's nothing you can't accomplish. right? The neatest thing that I've ever seen, and I love it every time I watch it, is when you cross the finish line after taking your mark, taking your place at the starting line. There's so much that can go wrong between, you know, that first line and that last line. But when you cross it, the coolest thing about it is now you have experience to teach it, to mentor it, and then to put yourself through it again with someone that's doing it for the first time. All of you eventually will become captains, coaches, and mentors. I guarantee it, all of you will. Because there's another generation out there right behind us that needs to know how you got there. So don't squander these experiences. Definitely get in and experience what the team has by proving that, taking your place. Questions? Thoughts? Observations? It says it right there. Questions? Awesome. Good deal. Who's leading the exercise tonight over there? Earl, right on. Athletes, who am I?
I'm a champion.
Yes, you are. Thank you for being here tonight.